What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and bringing another little nugget to add to the Soul Tribe archive. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Venus in Scorpio in the 11th house. And this is a curious one, I think, for Venus to be in. Now, when you talk about the lovely Empress, the nature of Venus is to magnetize or to attract the things that we want in life. Venus has a way of just forming relationships, whether that be, just creating this harmony and concord within all the relationships that we have. But that's not just with people. This could be with color, with sounds, with taste, with touch. Venus makes this whole experience more pleasurable. Venus is how we experience beauty and love and how we express that as well. And so and Venus is the lesser benefic. So yeah, there's a lot of positive qualities that Venus really can bring about. It can bring about us. That can bring about that sense of support in things as well. And especially if you have a night chart, you want to make sure to have a really tight relationship with Venus. See how Venus is aspected and where you may be finding a bit more abundance there. So, but then you talk about Scorpio. Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars, and they are the fixed water sign, and they are receptive or yin in nature. And the really cool thing I think about Scorpio is that they do have a very deep intuition. They're different than the other water signs because where Cancer and Pisces have some sort of involvement in the water, with Scorpio the water is within them. And it's a concentrated form of water. So I find that Scorpio has the ability to really channel into the raw power of emotions. And at first that can seem a little intense, can seem a little overwhelming. But the more that they, get familiar with those things, exploring those depths, it strengthens them. And then they can, they use that to transform transform the emotions and channel that into their craft, into their relationships, into whatever that is that they're doing. It can be a really strong force. There is, again, a real deep intuition with Scorpio, this real sort of like deep connection with that source energy. So I think the more that, Scorpio is in tune with oneself and its environment, the more the more powerful that it can become, and it can do really just great healing work for themselves and for others as well. I think there's a lot of loving energy, with that. When the water signs are leading from love, there's nothing that they can't do, but I think that especially applies for Scorpio. And then when you get into the 11th house, this in ancient astrology was known as the house of good spirits, so we love that. But this is one of the succeeding houses, and some of the themes that this house covers would be like your friendships, groups, alliances, benefactors, patrons. This can deal with I'm thinking about what else can it deal with, like alliances. I said alliances, associates, colleagues. But this can also deal with like your aspirations and hopes for the future. And this can also even deal with like children, and stepchildren can even be associated with this house as well there. And so when you're working with this placement, a couple of things to consider. One, you'd have a Capricorn rising by whole sign, and you're going to want to look to Mars, because Mars is going to be responsible for this 11th house and for your 4th house, which is the house of like your home, your parents, family, ancestors, your foundation, things along those lines. And then Venus is going to be responsible for your 5th house, which deals with like creativity or like kind of creative self-expressions, those natural talents and gifts that you have. It can deal with children, pleasurable pursuits. It can deal with sex and pregnancy, things along those lines. And then also deals with that 5th house, with the 11th or 10th house. Let's see if I can get myself together. The 10th house, which deals with like your public role in society, or your reputation, your honors, your ranks, the things that you want to master, your ambitions, things like that. So some things that I would talk about with this placement, just kind of right off the bat, is one, this is one of the signs where Venus finds itself in its detriment. And when a planet is in its detriment, it just means that it's furthest from its home sign. So where Venus, normally finds itself grounded in the lush pastures of Taurus, now we're in more of the kind of like the intenser waters of Scorpio. But one thing I think here, considering that Venus rules that fifth house and that 10th house, this would be one of really working on your craft. Because I think that Venus here, especially when it feels in the flow and really can stay in that flow, man, I think that Venus, it can create some incredible things, so incredible that I think that it could be one where you could find yourself with a lot of not just attracting the support that you need for whatever endeavor that you're doing, but there'll be ones that where you can attract some loyal people as well, who will stick there with you for the long haul. That might be something that could potentially come up there, or at least I would explore that. Think about what it is that you have to offer for the group there. But that would be something too that I would keep in mind of not, there's going to be that balance there where the group may have like certain expectations from you, whatever group you're involved in, whatever support, your patrons that you're getting along. This would be like, let's say, for example, if you're like a musician, you might, for a while there, people may recognize you for playing country. And then all of a sudden you want to switch and go go techno, or maybe you want to go tech, whatever that might look like. But there may be those challenges where, there might be like, I don't want to say manipulations, but maybe, in the group possibly, where they may try to keep you in a certain type of role. They may project their expectations on you, you wanting you to embody the thing that they want to be. So that would be something where pay attention to how your dreams and expectations for yourself and your hopes and inspire or evolves over time. And does the group and the people that you're involved in, are they supporting that? Are we meshing, or do we need to, maybe make some changes? So that might be something where in that Venus may feel really strongly, a real strong connections, and may sacrifice itself to hold on to those relationships. So that would be something to analyze there. And this might not be something that's new. Maybe this is something that started off, maybe considering that, how Mars rules this house and the fourth house. Maybe there were expectations from your family. Maybe they wanted you to achieve a certain type of thing. You could only get the recognition if you felt this type of role, if you joined this sort of thing, if you had this sort of friends and things like that. So there may even been some sort of rebellion there that might even have been kind of happening. So that would be something to explore, how we may have sacrificed some of our goals and how to get back on track for that, to find those and to form those relationships that truly matter to us. And it might be something where it may not be a bunch of people, because I think that Scorpio is more of a kind of a private energy, in which that's fine. You don't necessarily need a bunch of people, but at least having those really good quality friendships, I think that this Venus here could find that as well, but I think that it may be through some trial and error, of course. I think that's just something to be expected there. But yeah, overall, and I would say for another thing too, if you have children, that might be something where it comes into play there, where maybe you have certain expectations and you have certain things that you want them to do, and you can always present different doors for them, different opportunities, but it's going to be up to them for them to walk through those doors, to be in those things. So that might be something to kind of check in with as well there. But yeah, I would really be thinking about, again, what are your hopes, dreams? What do you see yourself doing when you feel yourself in your kind of your highest place? What does that look like? What does that embody? Who are you, and who are you getting involved with? Because I think that Venus will again attract, I think, some very loyal people in your life, and they can do some really good work, I think, in whatever this Venus is doing. And there may even be where you find some romances, maybe in sort of the groups that you join. It doesn't have to be the place. It could be maybe amongst, maybe between friends or something like that. But you may find even that romance comes into that. And that 10th house can even be involved with marriage. So that might even be another thing, that may come up for you there. Or again, you may just meet just like those really tight relationships down the line in all the groups that you form in life. So yeah, just pay attention to that as well. But overall, I like this placement for Venus. You know, again, maybe some trickiness, maybe in the at first, maybe just like I think it's all things as we kind of grow into the chart. But yeah, I think that this can really be a great one. But and I would love to hear, because you can only I'm just giving a brief overview of this. You definitely need the whole chart to get a better picture of how this placement may be translating. But if you have this placement or know someone who's working with this placement, down in the description box, leave a comment. Tell us how this has manifested for you, and what are some things maybe that you've experienced while kind of dealing with these sort of Venusian themes. But also too, if this is something that you want to explore a bit further, want to explore this Venus placement or any other placements, your whole chart, or maybe you have a certain, maybe you have like a certain, maybe a wedding that you want to plan, like get some auspicious dates, or maybe you want to move, move to another place or go on a vacation, plan a trip, whatever that might be looking like, or you have a solar return coming up, you want to see what sort of annual perfection year you're in, maybe Venus is your time lord for the year. But if that's something that you're curious, down in the description box, there is my email's down there, so you can ask. And I have a list of some of my services right now. I'm getting ready to do some changes on that here shortly. But if that's something that you want to check out, my email's down there, and feel free to email me with any questions that you have. And also on this channel, I do these weekly transit videos that come out every Mercury day. That's on a Wednesday. And it just talks about where the celestial bodies are at, what signs they're in, what aspects they're forming, how to work with those energies, and what placements may be feeling this more potently than others. So if that's something you want to check out, just kind of get eyes on the sky, definitely check that out as well. There's a playlist tab for that one as well. I think it's under weekly transits. But until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one. Later.